Note those as well.
I move to approve the minutes as presented for May 16th, 2024.
Second.
Have a motion and support to approve the minutes for the meeting of May 16th, 2024. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Next item of business is public hearing.
This is
Go ahead, Mike.
hearing case 2024-11. It's a request to rezone 1903 Marquette Avenue from RM1 low density multifamily residential to form-based code neighborhood core by the county of Muskegon. The county offices have been in here for a couple years now. They purchased the former Baker College in 2012 or 2022 and have several offices there and are looking at relocating some more over there over the next few years. They also have Central Dispatch and West Michigan Medical Consortium looking to lease our leasing space and have other lease space available as well. They also have additional land that they are not looking at using. If you can look on the aerial, there's quite a bit of parking that's unused. So looking at some additions possibly to the current building and possibly also selling off outlots in the future. And this fits in really nicely with our master plan goals. It's actually one of the goals of this neighborhood is to make a community node at the Marquette and Quarter Line intersection. We do have a little bit of retail that's somewhat struggling on the southeast corner there, and we think some type of mixed-use development would fit in really well at this intersection. So opens up a lot of possibilities. We notice everybody within 300 feet of the area, and we have not heard anybody from the public yet.
Okay, before we go into questions for Mike and the rest of the public hearing, I should note, I've neglected to do so, that the way we'll handle the public hearings is that the staff will introduce the subject as Mike just did, and then commissioners will have an opportunity to ask questions. Then we'll allow an opportunity for the petitioner to speak if they so choose, and then we open it up to the public for public hearing, for public comments. And then I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing and to take action on the subject matter. So with that, any questions for Mike, commissioners? Good explanation, Mike.
Questions for the petitioner?
So, so since there aren't any questions, is the petitioner here, and would they like to speak?
Wade Van and Bosch, Public Works Director, 1903 Marquette. Mike filled you in fairly well. I'll just add that, we've been in the office, we're in that building for 2 years. We're probably not compliant with current zoning. We want to make sure we get compliant with current zoning and your master plan. And that's what we're really trying to do. That's all I got. Any questions?
So any specific plans beyond what you're doing now?
Oh, we want to lease the space. I mean, Baker College is in there. They've renewed their lease, or they're going to renew their lease. They don't take up nearly as much space as they did in the past. Bethany Christian Services, I don't think Mike mentioned them. They're in there. Central Dispatch is in there. So we have some space that is leased, but there's other space that's available. We have a cafeteria that we'd like to get somebody in there for food service, and it would be open to the public. So.
Okay. Any questions?
Yeah, I wanted to ask about the outlots. I'm a former employee of the county, so I know very well that the parking lots are way too big. What are you thinking as far as those outlots? Do you have any plans?
There's not a plan in motion. I'm a civil engineer by trade, so I'm looking at this too. I could see us creating some parcels on the east side there along Quarter Line. That would make a lot of sense. I mean, there's space on the south potentially, but we don't have a plan, but that's something that we would think would make good sense. We certainly don't need that parking area the way it is. It's way too, way too much asphalt on that property.
Yeah, too much to maintain as well. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Commissioner.
Maybe question for Mike. Would, if they did let those parcels go, would that be a space where housing could be?
Yeah,
potentially
so
built?
the good thing about this designation, the neighborhood core, is it can be commercial, it can be residential, and it can be mixed use. But yeah, this is a great area for housing as well. That's probably okay.
Any other questions? If not, this is a time for the public hearing, and if anybody would like to speak, sir, I don't know if you're here for this issue, but if you're welcome to speak. Okay, if not, then we'll open up to the television audience. Okay, thank you. Okay, and so the number to call is area code 231-724-6721. If anybody would like to speak to this issue, you can call that number and we'll give you an opportunity to speak. What's the delay time for a phone call? Does it take a little?
30 seconds or
10 seconds or
Okay.
so, Brian.
No calls? Okay, so
Move to close the public hearing.
Support?
I have a motion and support to close the public hearing. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Pose same sign. Motion carried. And now I'll entertain a motion on this matter.
I'll get it. I move that the request for the special use permit to,
No.
wrong one. Sorry.
I'll jump in there. I move that the
Thank
request
you.
to rezone 1903 Marquette Avenue from RM1 low density multifamily residential to form-based code neighborhood core be recommended to the City Commission for approval.
Okay, I'll support it.
Thank you.
Team effort.
Any discussion on the motion?
I'll just add that I graduated from Baker College, and it's always been. I used to live in the Marquette neighborhood as well for about 10 years. So, moving forward, that parcel really kind of sets the tone for that entire environment, them as well as the community college.
Sure.
So, as we move forward, we need to keep in mind that we have some higher density residential nearby, and whatever happens with this property, and we want to continue to maintain that standard. So this can be a nice quality of life part of town.
That'd be great.
Okay. Any other comments? If not, roll call, please.
Commissioners Blake,
Yes.
Montgomery Keast,
Yes.
Mazade,
Yes.
Keener,
Yes.
Seifert,
Yes.
Willette Leroy,
Yes.
Aron,
Yes.
and Johnson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
This will go to the City Commission on the 25th, 5:30.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the next item. Don't have it up yet.
Hearing case.
Gentlemen.
Okay, so the hearing case number 2024-12.
Yep, this is a request for a special use permit to allow a Class B recreational marijuana grow facility at 181 South Getty Street. This is one of those parcels where we allow a lot of the smaller types of marijuana designations such as micro business, Class B grows, processing facilities. We allow those in our commercial and industrial zones. This is zoned I2. Somebody applied for one of these a couple years ago at this location, but I think they had some issues with their scheduling and it never came back. But you might recall this property from hearing back then a couple years ago. This is a different applicant. They're requesting the Class B marijuana grow, which allows up to 500 plants. This facility has been used as a caregiver facility for marijuana. When the caregiver law came into effect around 2012 or so that was one of our first buildings we had marijuana grows there. And we sent a notice to everybody within 300 feet and did not receive any comments.
Okay. Any questions for staff?
I just have one.
Jill?
I know it's right there near the, everyone says here creek, but creek. Are there any water concerns as related to this facility being there? Anything at all that you know of?
No, I don't believe so. They do probably use quite a bit of water and sewer, but that's all contained inside and
That'll be
zoned
taken
industrial,
care of?
so it's probably not as bad for the environment as some of the things that have gone on in this building.
Truth. Truth. Just don't want to add to it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Are there any requirements for this particular use as similar to the dispensaries as far as kind of the exterior of the property, or is that separate?
No, there's no strict requirements on beautification.
We should put that in place.
But they are still held to the same standards as any other business.
Okay. Other questions? So is the petitioner here?
I believe so. Yep.
Would you like to address this issue? Okay.
Yeah, I would first just like to thank you
Could,
guys.
could you give us your?
I'm
name?
Russell Galemba. I'm the owner of the building now, the current owner of the building. You probably remember me. I was in here a couple months ago with the same LLC and another group of individuals. We were looking to rezone the building in Lakeside. Currently, that building right now is going through all of the architectural design phases, which is a long and slow process, a big game of hurry up and wait. Looking at the size of that building and the opportunity to put cultivation in that space, it became expensive very quickly, and we are moving forward with that building for the processing aspect of it. This building was another piece of real estate that we had an option to utilize that had some of the infrastructure but had a lot of the conformity issues of it being so large and not up to code for the new cannabis use regulations when it comes to ADA compliance, egress, life safety, so on and so forth. After comparing apples to apples, it made more sense to carry out the cultivation side of things at this property, assuming that we would be allowed to do so. So that is our intent, is, put the cultivation at this property, continue on with the processing at Lakeside. That way we can make both parcels go and kind of make everything work in unison together. So the building's obviously zoned industrial. There's no one around us right now. Verplank, they bought Pat's Roadhouse, knocked it down. The VFW they bought, knocked it down. So right now it's us and Verplank hanging out, and they're loud and they're stinky and they got a lot going on. So they've been a great neighbor. We've talked to them a little bit, so they seem supportive of it. And to address some of the water issues, our style of cultivation involves a lot of reclamation. So we do minimal runoff. We don't run heavier phosphates. Everything's organic based, or we're recycling condensate water. So we're really cognizant of what we're doing from that aspect. So
That's great to hear.
yeah.
Thank you.
So as far as retention ponds or anything like that goes, I don't. But obviously, if it was a request or it needed to be explored, we would do. Whatever we needed to make sure we would meet those requirements. So.
Thank you.
Also on the site plan, there's some beautification as far as the landscaping goes. There's a dilapidated slab of concrete out front that needs to come out. We plan on putting in some landscaping there. We're basically looking at, obviously, the city license application and anticipating making sure that everything we do conforms to that, which plays into a lot of that beautification. So,
Okay. Good. Thanks for the explanation.
yeah. Do you guys have any questions?
Any other
for me?
questions for the applicant? Mayor.
Kind of a curiosity. So, who are you going to use for secure transport from the grow operation to the processing in Lakeside?
JK Logics, that's who we have a relationship with. Unfortunately, right now, there's no one in the Muskegon area that has a transport license that we're aware of. I don't believe there is in the county, so the people we've had relationships with in the past is who we plan on.
Business opportunity.
Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you. Yeah. So now is the time for the public hearing, and there isn't anybody in the audience. So then we'll just go to the television audience, and if there is anybody that would like to address the planning commission on this matter, you can call area code 231-724-6721. So my question is, do people have to wait until this time, or can they call in and be in a queue? No. Okay.
The way,
They have to wait. Okay.
it's typically about 10-second delay from what we say here and what people hear
Okay.
on Facebook.
Fair enough. Anybody? Nobody. Okay.
Motion to close the public hearing?
Support?
So I have a motion and support to close the public hearing. Any discussion on that motion? All's in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Now I'll entertain a motion on the subject matter.
I started it. You want me to finish?
Sure, yeah.
Right.
Please.
I move that the request for the special use permit to allow a Class B recreational marijuana grow facility at 181 South Getty Street be approved with the following condition. The special use permit be revoked if there are repeated odor control violations.
So motion and support. Any discussion on the motion? Roll call, please.
Commissioners Blake,
Yes.
Montgomery Keast,
Yes.
Mazade,
No.
let's see, Keener,
Yes.
Seifert,
Yes.
Willette Leroy,
Yes.
Gowron,
Yes.
and Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passes. Good luck. So this is a special use permit, so it doesn't go to the city commission,
Correct.
correct?
He's all
So this gentleman's good to go?
Yep.
Okay. What's the next
Which is a
item?
good segue to one of the items that I want to bring up in the bylaws
Okay.
under
So-
old business.
Okay,
All right.
so what is the next item of
So
business?
no new business, and we have old business approval of
Okay,
bylaws.
thanks. Okay.
Yeah. But before we make motions, may I just speak on a
Yeah,
couple things?
yeah, well, let's have some discussion about that, because I think there, you know, unfortunately, I wasn't here last meeting, but I know we had quite a bit of discussion at the meeting before, and I think we'll probably need to carry that on. So go ahead, if you'd like to start the discussion, Mayor.
One of which is pertaining to what you were just speaking about, like what goes before the commission, what doesn't. Under quorum of the commission, the final sentence there says all motions shall be passed with at least a majority of the seated board members. That was tweaked a little bit, but I thought that we were going to make a differentiation between, or a distinction between motions that were recommendations to the city commission and motions that were standalone, like the special land use permit, such that it was a simple majority of a quorum for motions to the commissions or recommendations to the commission, and that it would require a absolute majority of the planning commission members to adopt things that do not need to go to the city commission, such as the special land use permit. Am I recalling that
You know,
differently?
I don't recall that, but I'm not sure I have any objection to that, but let's have some discussion about that. What are others thinking about that? So as I understand what you're talking about, Mayor, is that if we have an item like a special use permit that is not going to go to the city commission, that it is going to need 5 votes of the planning commission, which is a majority of the full membership, in order for it to pass.
Correct.
Things that are recommendations, such as a zone change, would just need a majority of the quorum. So in that case, you could have 3 people out of 4 that could serve to pass it on to the city commission for approval. Right?
Okay.
Well,
3 out of 5.
it's
No,
it's
3 out
always
of
a
4.
recommendation, right?
Because 5's quorum.
When it goes
Five's
to the
a
city
quorum.
commission.
No, 4's.
Five's
Oh,
quorum
we
for
have
planning
9. That's
commission.
right. We have
Yeah.
9. Yeah.
What's that, Mike?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So it's always a recommendation when it goes to city commission, right? Like
Right.
even if it's 0 to 9,
Yeah.
it would. Is that where you're?
Oh, that's well,
What
yeah.
I'm speaking about is when basically the distinction is, because right here we're saying all motions will be passed with at least a majority of the seated board members, which we also had a question about seated board member, what that meant.
So that would mean 5.
But yes, because
Well,
because
okay,
under
'cause
here
we're
it
only
says
8.
so under here it says quorum of the commission, 5 members of total 9 members serving constitutes a quorum for the transaction of business. So if we only had 5 members here and seated, this distinction right here, all motions shall be passed with at least a majority of the seated board members, would indicate 3 members could approve something, whether it's a recommendation to the commission or it is that special land use permit. And so that's why I was thinking we were making a distinction between you
So-
could have a simple majority of the quorum for recommendations, but an absolute majority for things that do not need to go to the city commission.
So the way that I read this is seated board members. So right now we have 8 seated board members, regardless of how many people are sitting here. We have a 9th seat that hasn't been filled. So if we only had 5 board members here, the majority, all 5 would have to vote in that. So it's not in attendance at the meeting. It's seated on the commission.
So if we're going with that everything requires an absolute majority, and that's what this is, then I don't have a problem with that. It was just
Yeah.
it was just the prospect of 3 members potentially approving a special land use permit, and there's only 5 people present, 2 people vote no, and the others are all opposed, so it ends up being 6 opposed, 3 favor, and it gets approved.
Yes.
That's what I don't want
The
to create.
question
Well,
is
Mike-
about the seated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, I think, and you can correct me, but I think this issue has come up before. We've talked about the fact that we've had, 5 people here and 3 voted in favor of something, but I think, I thought that the legal requirement was a majority of the members.
I think it's whatever we have in the bylaws.
No,
So-
but I mean, I don't think,
If I may.
I guess, I understand what you're saying about the bylaws, but I'm thinking the legal opinion would supersede that.
So I
Yeah.
So I have asked the city attorney about this, and he
Okay.
indicated at the city commission it requires 4 of the 7 or more to adopt anything, period, regardless of how many members are present.
Yeah.
At the planning commission, it does not have that same threshold, although we can require it within our bylaws.
Okay.
And that's why I was thinking here it could potentially allow 3 to approve something, and that's what I want to avert.
What
And
page
so
is that
I agree
on?
with that.
Can I see that?
The question is the seated.
That's under
Page 2 of the bylaw.
Quorum of the
Like right in the
commission.
middle.
under quorum of the commission, last sentence in that section.
Yeah. What do we mean by seated? I guess because I see both ways of interpretation.
So the way that I've always interpreted seated is the number of people currently appointed to the board.
To a seat.
Because
Yeah.
and I'm not sure how our ordinance is written regarding the number of members on the planning commission. If it is 9 or up to 9, or I mean I'm guessing it's up to 9 because we're currently sitting with 8 and we have an open seat. So and I'm just going back to one of my previous communities. The DDA bylaws said that the DDA may have up to 12 members. But it didn't require us to have 12 members. In fact, we never had 12 members. So the seated means just however many the commission has determined we're going to have at that point in time.
I think we added this in, didn't we? Because I do remember discussing this now.
Yeah,
And I think I'm the one that
here.
said the seated.
And then we
that was
discussed like
my-
what does that mean?
Yeah, and my intent was of however many members the commission has determined we need. That's how many we have seated, and then you need a majority of those seated, just like at the commission level, to pass anything.
It previously said all motions shall be passed with at least a majority vote of the quorum.
Yeah, and that opened it up to that three problem.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing about, I mean, I understand the difference in the two, but I think Mike was saying this, if we're talking about a zone change, it can be passed on, it gets passed on to the city commission no matter how we vote.
Yeah.
I mean, so, I mean, if it passes as a 3-2 or whatever it ends up being, I mean, I guess it's just a matter of whether we consider that it was an approved
Yeah.
issue for the planning commission, but irrespective, it goes to the city commission.
Right.
Yeah, and I say what the vote was, so
Yeah,
whether or
right.
not they want to consider that a recommendation or not.
Yeah, but I totally agree that it doesn't look good if we have 8 seated or 9 seated if we're fully full, and the quorum, there's only 3 that actually vote yes. That's not a majority of us. So I like the way that's written. I do. Well, maybe not exactly, as long as we define what seated means, but very close, yes.
Can we
What
just
Jonathan
define
means.
seated in the bylaw?
Yep.
Or it could maybe instead of saying seated, it said
Appointed.
All appointed.
or a majority of the appointed board members. That would
That would
kind
be
of clear
very
that
That would
clear.
up.
clarify.
Yeah.
I'll make that.
Yeah, that's perfect.
We good on that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Jane? Okay. I mean, that seems to me that that's something that can just be changed and we can still move ahead with approving this. Mary, you have something?
Yeah, a couple other things. So with regard to the paragraph right before, the section right before that, special meetings, the final sentence says, public notice of the time, date, and place of the special meeting shall be given in a manner as required by the Open Meetings Act, and the planning department shall send written notice of a special meeting to commission members not less than 48 hours in advance of the meeting. My recollection of our conversation was that we were going to provide public notice at the same time that we were giving notice to the planning commission. So not 48 hours for us and 18 hours for the community. It was going to be the same. When we're noticed, the public is noticed.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if it's
yeah.
available, it should
Yeah.
go out to the public, of course.
So how should that read?
The
Should we-
18-hour notice.
Well, I guess
And you could say public notice of the time, date, and place of the special meeting shall be given in a manner as required by the Open Meetings Act, and at the same time that the planning commissioners are informed.
Matter of fact, I'd rather have the public informed before I got all the details, honestly.
Well, you could just add
If
it
I-
at
if
the
it was-
end, not instead of not less than 48 hours.
Time in
It's
the
you
spot.
can just put at the same time.
There you go.
notices.
And the public member shall
Simultaneously.
send written notice of the special meeting to commission members and the public. Yeah.
yeah,
You just say
yeah,
to commission members and the public.
Sure.
Yeah. Yep.
Simultaneous.
Or shall send written notice of a special meeting to commission members
Members
and,
and the public.
publish notice simultaneously. Because the word is send, shall send written notice to us, but we want to publish it. So, and the planning department shall send written notice of a special meeting to commission members and simultaneously publish.
I don't think you have to say simultaneously. I can just say and publish.
Yeah, because if you say
Notice.
Oh, yeah, yeah, and
simultaneously,
publish
somebody's
not
gonna
less than
say,
40.
I
Yeah,
did
yeah,
it
yeah,
at the
and
same
And
time.
publish. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
because that publish means
That
putting them.
works.
Yeah,
Of a special
Yep.
meeting to commission members and publish. Okay.
yeah.
Somebody,
That works for me.
Some crazy person.
And
would take that
publish
literally.
not less than 48 hours in advance of the special meeting. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then I think this might be the only. Oh no, a couple other things.
What?
Under voting, the third paragraph
Yeah.
says the order of the roll call vote shall be varied from meeting to meeting and from one vote to the next in a random manner, but the chairperson shall vote last. I thought we struck that last part, but the chairperson shall vote last.
I still don't know how we ended the last one. So,
Oh.
special meeting to commission members and the public, or was that reworded?
Meeting
and
to commission
post.
members and published.
And published.
Or posted and yeah,
And
yeah.
published.
Posted publicly and published, one of the two, yeah. But yeah, I thought we struck that part about the chairperson always votes last.
I think that should read. I agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
When are we on now?
So
Voting.
under voting,
Voting.
the third sentence, last clause, but the chairperson shall vote last.
And
We're gonna
you know,
strike
Break that out.
that.
Yeah.
and today, you know, we did the random, and
Yeah.
I didn't vote last, and that's good. I mean, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I do too.
Under citizen participation, we're talking about page 3 on bylaws. So this, the thing I want to get clarification, or we need to provide some clarity here, because it says any person who wishes to speak on an item included on the printed meeting agenda may da 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 da. So we need to provide an opportunity for, and maybe it's just a separate section at the end of the meeting. Well, we can choose whether we want it at the beginning of the meeting or end of the meeting, but there needs to be a separate section for
Public comment.
general public comment, not just comment on an agenda item. So I guess that would be at our pleasure whether we want public comment, general public comment at the beginning of the meeting or end of the meeting.
I would. Well, I was gonna say maybe just do one at the beginning, so that if we have someone has something to comment on, they don't have to necessarily stick through the whole meeting. And if it's limited to 3 minutes, that's not gonna be. I mean, that's not gonna be that long. So
I don't care.
yeah.
Because we have had, there have been times when we've, been debating something for quite a while, and there was a lot of comments, so it'd be nice to have those
Well, we
over with.
could run into a situation where there's a huge
Sure
development and 50 people all want to talk before the meeting, before the presentation has even happened.
Oh, yeah.
But that would be the case anyway.
Oh, but they would be on the
Yeah.
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 If it were a public
That's
hearing.
true.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But we could also do the caveat of if you're here for the public hearing, please hold your public comment until that hearing.
Yeah.
There you
Yeah.
go. It's a good.
And not that we could require it necessarily. Although we do
think
at the city commission.
Yeah.
But
We require them to do their public comment during the public hearing, if it's on that public hearing.
yeah,
Yeah.
we do a general or do agenda item comments at the beginning, unless it's the public hearing. That's
Yeah.
held for public hearing, and then general comment at the
Yeah.
end.
So I guess we could do the same thing here. Just do one general public comment at the beginning, and I don't even know if we have to do a caveat on public hearings, because we could probably just say, per the practice of a public hearing, that comment comes at that point. So that could just be part of the instructions that.
So I could say something like, general comments on non-agenda items shall be held at the beginning of the meeting.
You could just say any person who wishes to speak during general public comment period, or otherwise on an item included on the printed meeting agenda, because that would cover the public hearings and whatnot.
I think so long as the comment maybe it includes the word planning, because I love public comment like anybody else does, but we might
I don't
want
think we
it to
can.
be-
Can't
Yeah,
distinguish.
we can't. We can't.
OMA does not allow us to distinction.
Yeah, it's
distinguish.
It's a meeting. public
Ken,
meeting.
can you repeat what
Talk
you
about your
said?
rock collection. if you
So
want.
any
I'm
persons who
lot
wishes
of
to
things.
speak during general public comment, during a general public comment period, or otherwise on an item included on the printed meeting agenda.
Okay.
And are you saying that that is going to be before the?
That the
Public
way I
hearings?
worded it allows us discretion. I
I think
suppose
that's
if we
good.
want it at the
Because I don't
beginning or
think-
the end.
I agree. I think that's.
So that's under the same title as citizen participation.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that would be we could set that up on how we want it
Yeah.
at each meeting. Okay.
This is just acknowledging there's a separate general public comment period.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right.
So you got that, Mike?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's good.
And I think that's it, with the exception of, and this is just clerical. The last thing, these bylaws and rules of procedure are adopted this 11th day of April. We just need to update the date. That's all.
Yeah. Any other comments about the? I know we talked about this. I was not at the last meeting, so I don't know if it was discussed.
We tabled
Okay.
it.
Okay.
We
So-
had like a bare majority, so it's like
Okay.
just moved it to this meeting.
and we had a long meeting anyway. So
Good way-
Any other
Good,
discussions
I'm glad I
about that?
missed it.
I have one item, and I neglected to talk about it, but I feel it necessary to talk about it. And if you could go to, I think it's page 3. So it's the section about communications with citizens. I know we talked about it a little bit, and I didn't really say much. I didn't say anything at that time. But I'm concerned about that. I mean, I understand the need to stay neutral, and but I'm concerned, and I think I'm probably not the only one in this situation where, people want to talk to you about things that come up, and I think it's difficult and maybe even rude to just tell them you're not going to talk to them about it. And I just feel like we're probably, many of us, going to get in a situation very easily where, according to the letter of the bylaws, we're gonna violate this section, and I just think it's important to talk about it. I mean, I don't know about others, but where I live and my social life is, I walk a lot. People see me. They talk to me about things. They know that I had been associated with the city in the past. Many know that I'm on the planning commission, and so they want to talk to me about issues. And it's just difficult. It's one thing not to give an opinion, but it's another not to be willing to allow people to talk to you about what's on their mind. And I can tell you that the issue about the rezoning out near Beach Street this last time, people were talking to me about the issue, and I honestly knew nothing about it because I hadn't had any
Yeah.
communication yet on it, and people had received letters about meetings before this got to the planning commission. And so, they were talking to me about it. And I think under these bylaws, that kind of communication probably violated these bylaws. And I think it's just going to be difficult to manage through that. Jonathan?
So kind of the way that I was reading this, and this has to do more with kind of with how MSUE looks at the planning side of it, is if particularly a person who's petitioning before the commission. So if a developer was to be coming to us individually and saying, will you come out onto my site and do a tour, or will you come and have lunch with me and I can give you more information, that type of communication wouldn't be okay. But I think the general community input, that's just part of us being in the community. That's how I was reading it.
And I tend
Yeah,
to
it's really
agree
hard
with
to
that kind of approach. And I can think of a situation not too long ago where a developer contacted
Couple times.
me, and I assume others, and I refrained from having that discussion or meeting with that person. And I understand that, and I agree with that. But we're all citizens, we're all neighbors, and people are going to talk to us, and I think it's just very, very difficult to avoid that.
Yeah.
I mean, I
agree with
can't
that.
imagine the elected officials. People talk to you all the time.
We'd be able to wear our city commission hat versus our planning commission hat and have those conversations.
But it's still if it's a
No, I
planning
completely
matter,
agree.
yeah.
So,
I
I'm
agree
gonna
with
defer. I
Jonathan.
saw her hand up first, but I do have some thoughts. But
Yeah, yeah. I was just so I went through the citizen planner process with MSU, and kind of their viewpoint was really that this is supposed to be kind of a judicial proceeding when there's a hearing before the commission, right? So that the idea is that in that moment you're really looking at this from a city perspective of planning, but also that most people who participate in this type of environment wear multiple hats. Maybe they're involved in a historical commission, committee or what have you. And so firstly, I think folks have to first, when coming to a meeting, decide if they have a personal conflict of interest or to identify their conflict of interest. But otherwise, I wonder if we could possibly mention business, before the commission, or like there's a hearing coming up, something very specific, like
Petitioner.
within, if something has been noticed for 4 days, I can't talk to you about it, or something of that nature. I understand that maybe a little bit more, but in general, I think we're all going to be having these conversations, and that's how we really get to understand what the issue is.
And so as long as and maybe I'm just reading this too literal, but as long as we understand that, I'm fine with that. And what Jonathan said makes total sense to me.
Put your hand up and say, nope, I'm not talking
Well,
to you.
that's my point.
That's what you do to me all the time.
Well, other than you.
Mayor,
But
Mayor,
yeah, I think that'd be bad.
I think we could, from what I'm hearing, I think we could accomplish that in here with just two minor changes. One of which, under communication with him, is first say official contact with commissioners falls into two categories, because then allows the casual chats, but then also under ex parte, the second paragraph saying ex parte contact with members, with individuals with business before the planning commission or coming to the planning commission shall be avoided by commissioners.
Petitioners?
Yeah, I think we just say petitioners. Yeah.
Are there? But because there's sometimes that you're not a petitioner, but you're affected by something that comes before us.
That's true
And
too.
so-
And how are we going to figure that out sometimes?
Yeah. If I could recommend that there's some pretty good language that handles this under state enabling and interpretations of, because I was reading it like you were, Jonathan, and for a while there, MML had put out a nice standard about, no, you're not going to go out to the cocktail party with the developer. That's
I mean, I think we all understand that, and to me, it's almost goes without saying. But my concern was with the general public, with our friends and neighbors. That was my concern. And what I think we're all discussing here takes care of that. If we want to put some language in there, I'm all for that. But I was just concerned.
Maybe ex parte contact with petitioners and associated parties shall be avoided.
I love the idea of that it's going to be so hard for us to keep straight, because very often people come up and talk to me about something that hasn't even hit an agenda, or it has and I don't even know it.
Well,
But are they the petitioner and associated party, or just the general public?
But you don't know what you don't know.
I don't know.
Well, then you would.
Yeah, right. I
You
don't
wouldn't know then.
In that instance, actually, I think, if I recall, that basically if you've received communication from somebody who's petitioning, you basically are just supposed to share that. Hey, such and such came up to me and gave me the following information. Here's an email. Here's what happened. And at that point, you're putting it on the record and sharing it with everybody else, so they can include that in their decision making, as I recall.
And which reflects in here, the secretary consists of significant communications, written or verbal, that address planning commission business and shall be shared and noted in the minutes.
That's covered.
Then if you look at it that way,
I feel like
sure.
I'm being transparent at that point.
Maybe I didn't want to bring this up.
No, I think it's a really good discussion. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Typically,
Don't
what I
worry
do,
about
if anybody wants to talk to me about anything, I tell them, oh, hell no, but here's Ms. Aid's number.
Well, and that's the thing is,
Yeah,
Gotta do that.
I'm just going to punt everything to the planning chair now.
Okay, so I don't care if we make changes or not, but I just wanted that out there, and I think I feel better about that.
Do you? Okay. All right.
So we decided on that
I think
or not?
we talked about maybe adding some language about the petitioner. I don't really care. I mean, I guess it defers to the mayor.
I think it's fine. If we did ex parte contact with petitioners, that's fine. It conveys what the intent is. I mean, it's the caveats of the loopholes where it's like, okay, well, you're the official petitioner, but you're, an employee of the petitioner or you're a spouse of the petitioner, and they're speaking with us,
Right.
as an in run, and that's
Well,
what I
I-
was trying to
and-
avoid
and-
with associated parties.
But I also think at that point in time, it's spirit of the regulation versus the letter of the regulation, and clearly the spirit saying,
Okay.
the petitioner is that individual or anybody that works for that individual. So at least that's how I would read it.
Mhm.
So
Okay. All right. Other comments? So do we want to take action on this item with the changes that were suggested? I'm comfortable with that. And I guess I'd like to get this off our plate sooner than
I
later.
agree.
When I would move to adopt the bylaws as presented, including the modifications discussed tonight.
Sure,
Agreed
and
to
I'll
tonight. Does that work?
Support.
yeah, and I'll bring them back next month just to make sure we don't want to amend it again.
Okay. Thank you,
Well-
Mike. Thanks, Mike.
yeah, okay. I was gonna say if you attached them as part of the minutes, then if there was an issue, then we could just amend it in
Oh,
the minutes.
okay.
So we'll vote to approve, and then they'll be part of the minutes.
Okay, so I think I have a motion to
Yep.
approve
And you got some
as
support?
amended tonight. Correct?
Yep.
Yep. And then
That works.
Support.
second.
I have support.
I'll
Any
wait my
further
next
discussion? Roll call, please.
All right, Commissioners Blake,
Yes.
Montgomery Keast,
Yes.
Mazade,
Yes.
Keener,
Yes.
Seifert,
Yes.
Willett Leroy,
Yes.
Gowron,
Yes.
and Johnson.
Yes.
Okay. I don't have the agenda up, so what's the next?
We don't really have anything else, but just to let
Okay.
you know, we did hire SEH, which is a local planning and engineering firm. They actually work out of the former Huntington Bank building downtown.
Oh, is that where they relocated their
Yeah,
offices?
it's
Okay.
an employee-owned corporation that's very large across the country, and they have local offices here now. And we hired them to do our Apple Avenue corridor plan. So we're looking at having a public meeting tentatively on July 17th, but I'll send out more information once I get that.
And I saw something about that. Was there some publication? I seemed to.
MDOT puts
It was
Yeah,
at
something
commission this
through.
week.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, what, SEH or Apple?
Apple.
About
Apple. Yeah, MDOT did a notice this week.
Oh, okay.
So there's two separate things going on. There's the work with MDOT on the road, and then working with us and SEH on the corridor improvement plan.
Okay.
So
Okay. Thank you. Right, so,
There is a.
is it? Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to share with that MDOT notice. There's a public meeting June 18th in Muskegon for future M46 project. That is Tuesday, June 18th, 4:30 to 6:30, and that will be at Robert C. Lighton Memorial Park at 965 Terrace Street.
That's what I saw. Yes, because it was at Lighton Park.
And they're talking more about multimodal transportation at that meeting, isn't that the a specific focus of that?
The description of the project is the Michigan Department of Transportation is hosting a public meeting next week to discuss the planned 2026 rebuilding of M46, otherwise known as Apple Avenue, on the west side of US 31. The City of Muskegon is partnering with MDOT to review alternate designs, including the possibility of changing the lane configuration and the addition of non-motorized infrastructure. MDOT officials will provide current project details, scheduling information, and traffic impacts. The public is invited to stop by any time during the meeting to learn more about the project and to provide comments.
Awesome.
This is only in person then?
Sounded like it.
I don't see a virtual option. Looks like it's only in person. I mean, there's contact information that you can share, feedback, and ask questions, but
I don't know if they have technology in the park.
yeah, this might be a little hard to set it virtual in the port.
So, okay. Anything else for the good of the order? I have two questions, Mike, and they're pretty simple. The convenience store gas station that was going to go in behind Walgreens, is that started? It looks like there's
with the former Radio Shack.
Yeah,
Yeah, on Henry. Yeah, they're putting in the underground tanks.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
That was a long time ago.
And then the other question I think you and I have talked about before is the gentleman done anything on the Ottawa Street project that came before the Planning Commission?
They're pulling permits right now.
Oh,
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay.
okay, great.
So he's gone back and forth a couple times.
Yeah, I know you told me it was kind of delayed, and you know. So
Yep, we
good.
should see that this summer. Yeah.
So it's well, why don't you
Dave
explain?
Duzendang's building some condoized, what do you call them, storage, but you can also work on cars in them or whatever. And
Sometimes known as she sheds or man cave type
Yeah,
so there'll be
facilities.
yeah, there'll be about 8 of them.
yeah. It came before the Planning Commission before you came on, Commissioner. So that's but it kind of got delayed, and now it's.
It was right. It's right near Fisherman's Landing. With the expectation it could be boaters store there, but also space for them to work on it, or
You can actually live in there. Yeah, it's going to be pretty cool for people
Okay.
that are.
Anything else for us, Mike?
Nope.
All right. If not, we're adjourned.
Sweet.
Thank you.
right. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.